And welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. You're congenial, convivial, and amiable, as always, host. Great to have you in the conversation. I want to welcome Tim Wildmon, who's the president of the American Family Association, is with me in studio. Tim, welcome to Focal
Hey, Brian.
Point.
Good to be with you.
And on our decision maker line, honored and pleased to welcome back to our decision maker line Todd Starnes, who is a Fox News commentator. You are familiar with him, has been a frequent guest here on Focal Point before. Todd, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Brian, thanks. Always glad to hang out with American Family Radio.
Well, Todd, the reason I brought you on, and I've got Tim Wildmon in studio with me here, is you have broken a story this morning. It's on the Fox News website about what the United States military is doing, and the American Family Association is a part of this story. Tell us about how you got the information. Tell us about this breaking story and what's important about it.
Well, this is very important for every person of faith that's listening to us right now. The United States military conducted a training session, a training briefing last week at Camp Shelby in Mississippi, and they were giving the soldiers, around 50 soldiers, instruction on domestic hate groups. And in this presentation, they listed the American Family Association as a domestic hate group. The reason why, apparently, is because of the American Family Association's position on traditional marriage. Now, we received information from a soldier who asked not to be identified, who was in this briefing, and he had the wherewithal to actually take a photograph, a screenshot of the slide presentation. And what's even more egregious is that under the American Family Association headline is a photograph of Westboro Baptist Church preacher Fred Phelps, who is holding a sign with that features or that includes a derogatory slur for homosexuals. And it should be noted, as I noted in my piece, that the American Family Association has absolutely no affiliation with Westboro Baptist Church, and yet the United States Army is making that association. So, Brian, we reached out to the U.S. Army. We reached out to the Pentagon this morning. We told them we gave them 2 hours to respond to our story. They did not call us back at the deadline, so we extended that deadline 2 more hours. And as of 2:19 Eastern Time, we have yet to hear from either the Pentagon or Army Public Affairs.
Well, Tim, I want to bring you in the conversation here, and one of the things we find most offensive here is the military linking us with Fred Phelps, because our approach to the issue of homosexuality could not be more different, black and white, compared to what Westboro does.
In case people are wondering who is Fred Phelps, he's the guy who protested at the funeral services of some military people over the past years, and you go, what kind of person would be holding signs at the funeral of a soldier? And it's that group from Topeka, Kansas, that they go and they protest. And he uses, as Todd said, he uses words to describe homosexuals that are the equivalent of, I guess, the N-word. Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, it's very inflammatory, very. So the point is, okay. So let's put yourself in the place of the person who's having to be subject to this training by the Army. And by the way, this is the Air Force too, and also some police training in some various states. We heard from somebody who had to attend one of these in Kentucky. They're going to this diversity, tolerance stuff, and they have to sit there and they have to listen to the lecturer. Okay, so I'm almost through with this. So you're sitting there, and up pops the American Family Association as an official hate group. So says the Army. You know that's not true, and the picture on there is of Fred Phelps, a guy who does hate homosexuals, and so you have the American Family Association description and a picture of Fred Phelps. That is intentionally misleading the person holding a sign. That is intentionally misleading the people sitting in the audience to think that that picture is of a representative of AFA when it in fact is not.
Well, and you pointed out that Fred Phelps and his group, they picketed my church one time back when I was a pastor in Boise, picketed my church for being too pro-gay, which proves that God has a sense of humor. But, they do brandish these signs that saying God hates homosexuals,
yes.
only they use the equivalent of the N-word to describe it. And we don't believe that. We do not believe that God hates homosexuals.
No, that's true. We take the traditional Christian approach. God hates the sin, loves the sinner. We always have. But we're not going to back down on the fact that homosexuality is a sin according to the Holy Bible. And so we'll fight on that front, but also there are a lot of other sins mentioned in the Bible. We all must repent. We all must change our ways. We all must seek forgiveness from Christ. So that's where we stand. But here's the part that Todd spotlights on this story today. The Army or the Air Force should not be using AFA as a hate group. They're getting this from the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC out of Montgomery, Alabama. That's who's providing this information to the Army, to the Air Force. I guarantee you. I mean, I'm speculating a little bit here, but that's who's providing this information. This is a group that's been discredited before the SPLC, but you've got this. I'm speculating here now what I'm saying here, but I think I'm putting the dots together, connecting the dots. You've got far left ideologues in the Obama administration in charge at the Pentagon and at the Justice Department who control the materials, the curricula, the information that's sent out to the military bases and to the training of these people, of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, and everybody else. And it's being provided by the SPLC, a group that hates American Family Association, and that's what's going on here.
Well, and Todd, your source for this information was a soldier that was exposed to this briefing who turns out is a part of the AFA network, like many. We have thousands of members of the military that are a part of the AFA network. So he knows the truth about AFA, knows what's being represented, and I guess based on that contacted you.
Yes, that's correct, Brian. He did. Ironically, I was delivering a speech over the weekend at the 2013 Values Voter Summit in Washington, and I checked my messages, and I had a message from this particular individual who asked to remain anonymous, mainly because Christians who do speak up in the military have come under punishment and reprimand. But apparently, during this briefing, there was a chaplain in the audience who stood up and defended AFA and really questioned the instructor, but the instructor was adamant. They did not say that they got the information from the Southern Poverty Law Center. They did tell us where, but we were unable to verify that, so I don't want to release that information. But I think the concerning thing here is that they're equating AFA with neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan. And one soldier asked, well, if we participate or if we give money to these groups, can we get in trouble? And they said yes. And that led the soldier to really wonder that, he donates to the American Family Association. He listens to AFR all day. And so he wondered if he would be facing penalty under the Uniform Code of Military Justice as a result of this training session.
And Tim, that kind of raises the question, SPLC was involved, Todd, as you're aware, and you mentioned other examples in your article of how this SPLC material is being used to demonize AFA and the Family Research Council, these training segments, and at all different kind of institutions, whether it's military or whether it's law enforcement. And they were involved in the shooting at FRC last year. Their map was the map that Floyd Corkins used to go to FRC. It was the SPLC that told Floyd Corkins that FRC is a hate group, and so he went there to eliminate members of the staff of FRC. So Tim, as the president of AFA, what is our response as an organization to what the military is doing to this organization?
Well, they need to stop it. They need to take American Family Association's name away from this training session that they do on hate groups, because that's not, and especially using the picture of Fred Phelps with our name attached to it. That's reprehensible. Go ahead.
And guys, I want to, if I could chime in here. I think something more important needs to happen. They need to have additional training seminars where they refute the information that has been taught. This was not an isolated incident. We have many other instances of military personnel being told that AFA and the Family Research Council are domestic hate groups. We've also heard that there have been training sessions where they've called evangelical Christians and Catholics examples of religious extremism. And gentlemen, I believe that at least on face value here, it looks as though the Obama administration is separating the military from the American people here. And imagine this down the road, if this follows through, and we've got a generation of soldiers who believe that evangelical Christians are extremists, it's going to make it very easy for them to lock down the local First Baptist Church and not give a second thought about it, because they were trained to believe that what's happening in that church is extremism. And
a danger to America's security. Tim?
Yeah, we've also got a call from a police officer in the state of Kentucky who also was subjected to training from the state office in Kentucky, and they too used the American Family Association and the Family Research Council in this instance as hate groups. So they're training the thing about it, the good news is we're getting feedback from these officers, from these Army, from these Air Force people. They're saying, hey, we're having to sit in here and listen to this stuff when we know it isn't true.
Well, in reality is, Tim, American Family Association, we do not hate homosexuals. We love them enough. We believe Jesus died for them just like he died for heterosexual sinners. We love them enough to tell them the truth about homosexual behavior and the risks involved in that. And the reality is we simply have a disagreement, Tim, with other organizations that believe that homosexual behavior ought to be normalized. We take a different view. We disagree with them over that, but disagreement is not hatred.
Well, I agree with that 100%. That's what we're saying, and it's unfair for them to characterize us in this way, and especially to use tax dollars to do it. So we're asking, and we may take this further. We're looking at legal avenues here.
Well, Todd, I want to thank you for breaking this story. Thank you for taking time to come on and help us process this information, and we will stay in touch with you, and the day may come when we have you back on for an update.
Hey, let's do it, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
God bless you, Todd. Thank you. So, Tim, that's just a striking thing to me. Like you say, tax dollars being used to demonize an organization. We're simply working for the values on which America was founded.
Well, we'll keep you posted, Brian. We're going to fight back against this one.
My guest, Tim Wildmon, the president of American Family Association, and Todd Starnes, Fox News commentator. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Jim Stanley, director of operations here of the American Family Radio Network, who was in Washington, D.C. for the vets storming the barricades back in 2.